Hi everyone, this is a special roundtable discussion. Of course, the main topic of today is none other than the nWo, the New World Order. And of course, with us here on my left, I have a man Dwight, who is a proud member of a future group, AMX, and of course, could have been a possible member of nWo. But of course we'll explain that along the way. To my right, I have Kricket, who is an important member to nWo. He was once leader of nWo Wolfpack, Red and Black, and was enforcer of the new nWo back in 2000. And of course, next to him is Jade, who is a proud member, was a proud member of nWo since its inception. With the originals, of course, new nWo and the Wolfpack. So, Jade, we'll begin with you. What can you tell us about the beginning of the nWo when it was just the three of us? It was you, myself, and of course, Mike, who's not here with us.
Yes, the nWo really started out as a clique within the confines, you say, of the mixed chorus. We were like, the moment we just started in, of course, that broke in about January '97, and we just started to form this tight-knit group, so to speak, between friends. And from there, and our love for wrestling, it just kind of manifested itself. The more we had in common, the more tight we began to get. And it was like we started seeing a whole different stratosphere beyond high school, and from there we just like we started bonding, and from there that bond was just as tight as pretty much anything else.
Yeah, it was specifically that bond that made us come together, and for the fact that we knew about the nWo, which was basically the wrestling thing, and how popular it was back then. So, you know, it really started out when of course, I was in the choir. I was the first one to be in the choir, and that's how I met Mike. And from there, I remember wearing the nWo shirt for the first time ever, because back then at Kelly, everybody was just their own way. Of course, you had your split between factions, you know, with gangs, and of course, you got your rockers, headbangers, and of course, but there was nobody that could actually stand out when it comes to being a wrestling fan, and wrestling was a big thing in the 90s, so I basically had to be the one to break the ice and wear the nWo shirt, and that's how I got some attention from some people. Then once I started doing this, and everybody else started wearing wrestling shirts, doesn't matter whether it's nWo or whether it's WWE, doesn't matter, but everybody who was a wrestling fan made a statement, and that's how it caught Mike's eye. Like, he's wearing an nWo shirt. Like, you're into that? It's like, what do you know about the nWo? I know Hulk Hogan is the leader of it. I'm all like, what else do you know? So then from there, we just started talking wrestling, and that's how the three of us bonded immediately. And then, of course, we invited Mike over to the house, and the rest was basically history. So then, you know, we formed our own clique based in the choir. And you know, we had the wildest of times, but unfortunately, Mike had a very short time with us because he was short on credits or whatever, and he was, I think, the most senior at the time. And, you know, he was done, he left, and it was just the two of us, and we still moved on. And then from there, following years to come, then we had our own Wolfpack, which you and I were a part of the very first Wolfpack. And of course, there were other members. Like I remember, we brought in Chiva, Edgar Faria. He was one of our members in the choir, of course. Right? Yeah, he was, believe it or not. But this was all within the choir. This has not, yeah, he was a Wolfpack member. And it was all within the choir. It had nothing to do with like outside of the school or inside or whatnot, but this was all within the choir. Carlos Gonzalez was another member who I probably picked because I knew he would fit in perfectly. And of course, we had We also had another guy, Louis Villaseñor. He wasn't officially a Wolfpack member because all he did was he was a Cisco Inferno wannabe. He was a Cisco Inferno of the Wolfpack. I don't know if you guys remember that Cisco was a wannabe. Trying to get in.
A prospect, so to speak.
A prospect, yeah, but I knew as much as he wanted to be a Wolfpack member, he was really never a part of it, so he was like an outsider. But I mean, they consider it. So once the year was about to be up, it's like, you know, that was pretty much it. But he really never was a member. Fast forward to 2000, our year, and I knew that it was already up to the point where I was going to leave, and Steve was going to leave. And how I met this guy was through PE, through the gym, and we had it, I think, for 3 straight years together. Yeah. And I don't know how, but I never thought that from that point to now, that you were going to be one of my best and greatest friends ever, you know, and
you don't choose the friends that stay. It is made that way.
That is true. Because never did I thought that, you know, once I meet a guy that stands out like you, with your, you know, with your charisma, with your attitude, with the way that you lash out at the world, with the way that you would just lash out at anything, you know, that made me different from you. But at the same time, it's like it's those two opposites that makes it to be to understand so many things in life, and you know, and it comes to this point where we've been through so much together. I mean, I've been there for you throughout your best and toughest of times, just like as well as you were for me. But back to the point that I'm trying to make with this nWo topic, I knew that if I wanted to make one more group within Kelly, I first thought, okay, well, I do want to make another nWo group, but this one has to be out of the choir. This one has to be like an after-school thing where we can hang out somewhere and, you know, just get to know each other, just have fun. And my first initial thought was, of course, this guy's got to be with me, because if there's an nWo group, there can't be one without this guy.
Right. We were pretty much the, well, of course, we were the one. I basically became the enforcer, and from that point on, it was like we started to try to go in from one stratosphere to another, and it seemed like it was like we really started to go in a different direction, but pretty much we pretty much had the same vision, although with a different kind of people.
Yeah, we knew we had to change it up a bit, and that's why I decided to have this group out of the choir, and just guys from high school that we know that we thought would fit best within this band. And of course, once the real true band existed, I'm like, we got to get some guys that we know could fit best. I thought about Steve first of all, because I knew with his attitude and the way he presents himself would be the best opportunity for him, and we had to get him in. And boy, did he fit in sweetly as the enforcer of the band. And he never disappointed. Never. He knew what needed to be done. He knew how to handle a certain situation where we were put in this position. What can we do from there? He obviously knew the answer without even thinking it twice. He was there, and of course he got it done. But that was if we ever get into that certain situation. But mostly, it was just pretty much hanging out, you know. And then right after Steve, we brought in Jimmy Z. And at the time, he did fit the mold, you know, despite of what just happened recently. I mean, I don't regret, you know, not having him in. I don't regret that, because those were times where we really, all 5 of us, got along so well. And, you know, I wish that we could just relive those moments back, but unfortunately, we can't. We can do it between the fourth of us if Elmo was here. We can definitely do that. But with Jimmy Z in the picture now, as we're talking, fortunately we can't. Because, you know, I never thought that he would backstab me the way he did. You know, having to come into my house when I extended my helping hand throughout his troubled times. And just rob me in broad daylight and stab me in the back. At that time, that earned him for dead. But just looking at it now retrospectively, it's like, been there, done that. It's like, you know, we just move on with our lives. And right after Jimmy Z, I didn't know that Elmo was going to end up in the choir. That's how we got reconnected with him again. And small world was that I didn't even know that you knew Elmo. So, or I don't know how it got to be, if you knew him before. I know I met Patrick and he met Patrick when we were living in the same neighborhood. So I don't know how you guys got to
one of the classes.
One of the classes that you had.
Maybe it was PE.
PE?
He was one of the first kids there. He looks like a type.
That's basically.
I mean, look, you get a little bundle of doll clothes, and I think he would fit that.
That basically would have been Elmo, you know, right down to the T. But we knew that Elmo had to be the last person to fit very well with us, and you know. Just thinking back at the pictures that I took. I don't know if you remember the pictures that we took at Buffalo that one time.
I would have to see them again.
Yeah, with Janet at one time.
Yes, I remember those.
Yeah, and we were just...
Those were interesting times.
Those times we had a ball. We connected with each other so well.
Those times were very, how do you say? Filled with a lot of joy and disappointment.
At the same time, I mean, but we were having a blast, so that's what counts.
Never felt such a camaraderie between friends and acquaintances since that day.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll ever be replicated again. I mean, even if we had Elmo right here, we could try to do it again, but once it happened at that time, it stays in, you know, in our lives forever.
It's new moments that are made.
Yeah.
You don't relive the old ones, you just make new ones.
That's pretty much how life goes. And of course, that was the only group that lasted a little bit more longer than any other group that we formed, I believe, at that time. Because once 2001 hit, I mean, we still stayed connected with one another, but once 2001 hit, this guy was already graduating, and so was Jimmy Z at the time.
I became a ghost.
And you just disappeared out of nowhere. But of course, Elmo was already telling us that he was about to leave the city to go live in Indiana with his dad, of course. And all that was left was just the three of us and Jimmy D a little bit afterwards. He was leaving Florida with his dad. And it was just basically the two of us. He just disappeared. Because
didn't someone pronounce me dead?
There were rumors flying around about that for some reason because I guess it was in one's nature.
You actually found out the truth behind that.
Really?
Yeah, Freddie. Someone kept bugging Freddie about where I'm at, and he finally said, he's dead. He was hit by a car. He's dead.
Well,
you know, unfortunately, the person he told was Josephine. And Josephine is a big mom. And, well, it sort of spread like wildfire.
Yeah, so, I mean, Freddie knows how to twist a lot of things around and just made it interesting for others to, like, get initial reactions, you know, to gas.
And you realize how many people wanted to kick his ass once I plant him back into the picture?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, people that you know that, like, I'm not going to call them full-fledged friends, but I'll say acquaintances and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you show up back in the picture and they think you're dead and they think they're looking at a ghost kind of gives you some very interesting opportunities for very interesting reactions.
Yeah, it did. But nonetheless, at that time, I really thought that that was the only group that lasted more longer than any other faction that we did around the school or in the school, period. But those were, in my case, interesting times that we can always relive, but of course we'll never, you know, make new moments because of course there's everything in the present now. And things change over time. So we fast forward now to maybe 04, 05, where it was up to the point where already, you know, Mike reconnected with both of us back in 02, 03, around there. And, you know, we started hanging out again. And Kricket, I think, started getting into the picture back once in full, like about maybe 2, 3 years later, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I came back into the picture around 2002.
I think around.
I think that's when I started picking the pieces up that I was.
Yeah. No, I know you were around in 2004 because I had you there for a birthday celebration.
I was still picking pieces up when I was.
Yeah, but you were still around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course around at that time there were talks about bringing back the nWo. Maybe not in full plan, but in theory. So I started envisioning, okay, what would just happen if it would be the 4 of us? So I'm like, it was thinking, it was, you know, and it was still paper, theory, that it could go that way. So, but it never was official, but the idea was still there. So then we talked about it, and of course, we were still hanging around each other. But then I thought that it would be a bigger window to make it legit, where we can bring back the nWo, but make it interesting and add more members to it. So I started to do that, and of course, the results weren't disappointing. But then, of course, I think you came up to me and wanted to expand the nWo. Pretty much wanted to run leadership for the Wolfpack. I think I told you the story about how the nWo went. And then, of course, you were like, I was wondering if maybe there's any possible way that I could be the Wolfpack. Just, you know, have my semester guys and run with it. And I remember I said, yeah, but there's one condition. You definitely got to have my brother and I in it, because otherwise there wouldn't be a Wolfpack. So, yeah, and that was part of the package.
I really feel that it's time that the pack started to grow. Where you have 2 levels. The level that started it off, and the level that can rise to the new. But in order to do that, you gotta have a hell of a leader. A best friend of mine that I already know for a long decade, he stepped up to me and he said, hey, how would you feel if I make the name of the nWo a lot more stronger than how the first group was first founded on? The guy made me think. He made me think really hard about what his idea was trying to get at. What is the point that he wanted to come across? He wanted to make the new world order as big as it can become. I told him, you know what, Kricket? That's not a bad idea. As a matter of fact, if you want the leadership role, you got it. Because of course, when Kricket was in the new nWo and became the enforcer, man, did that guy make me proud. he never let me down. He had my back. He had my brother's back. Boy, did he made a mistake. And I really feel that without a doubt, he can get the job done. I have no doubt in my mind that Kricket can pull it off. Imagine that. Kricket, the leader of the nWo Wolf, the red and the black. He's got something to do.
So then it comes down where it's coming, and of course we have the splits. But of course, just look at its actual history. The nWo, it was all about togetherness. But of course, you had to separate your weaklings from its strong suits. And just like in actual history, where in the beginning, in actual wrestling terms, where they had their A version and their B version, just like later on within 2 years when they split the Wolf Pack and they brought it back, they had their elite, and of course black and white were the weaklings. It's like we coincidentally relived that same fact, where I believe that the Wolf Pack was the strongest one than the originals, even though they were part of it, were the weakest.
That is so true, and of course, so I would like to point out that in every club, there is a pecking order, but the bottom line is that we all have to come together, like to console each other. You got great ideas, and you're willing to listen, and it's all about like you put your differences aside for the benefit of the group. It's like there are times you want to be willing to listen to him, there are times you want to be willing to listen to Mike, and of course there's so many different ideas, so many different suggestions. And basically, as co-leader, I had to put them on paper, and we just do this, we just do that. But the bottom line is that as long as all of us, we can find a way to coexist and make it happen.
That's right. And also, of course, when we were thinking about members, for the originals, Mike threw in if he can bring in his brother. I'm like, well, I got to meet him first and see what he's all about. So I'm like, yeah, the heck with it. We'll get him into business. And when it came to the Wolf Pack, Steve called me up and he was like, hey, I got this guy that I think would be perfect for the Wolf Pack. And then that ended up being Lance. So at that time, and to be honest, I really wasn't totally positive, but I told Steve here that I had to meet him and see what he was all about. So I remember the time that we were at Lalo's, it's like if we were having a job interview or something like that. Because that's how it felt to me. But just having at least 2 to 3 minutes talking with the guy, I feel like I can cut. I think he could really fit into the Wolf Pack mold. Because if there was one thing that I knew Lance would bring to the table was the fact that he would be loyal. And still to this day, whether we had it or not, he would still be loyal.
Well, he's proven that already.
Yes, he has. And I don't know if it was you or me or we saw it at the same time, but he would fit in the position for the Wolf Pack as a mediator.
Yeah, he works well with that one.
Yeah, I mean, a mediator carries a big portion of responsibility. And boy, that he voiced it out in a way that I never thought that he would surpass an expected level, but yet he did it.
Neutral. He was more neutral about the issues than take it to one side.
Right.
There was no favoritism at all. If he did show any, it's only because the evidence showed that the other person was right, the other person was wrong.
And he always put in front of his mind that, the greater of the good for the group was first than anything else. Because of course that's what we're trying to put out, is that the group comes first and everything else is last.
Pretty much the thing is that everybody in the group knew his role, so to speak, and as long as we come to an understanding during the meetings, we pretty much say, okay, if we could do that, so we could change that or whatever. Just as long as there is I wouldn't call it I wouldn't call it being that, but satisfaction within the group, just as long as all of us agree to it.
Then of course it was starting to be like an actual thing where we would have meetings at the house and just talking about how we could expand more and actually be somewhat legit. But I knew that we couldn't really be legit with a name and a design that was already established. So we had to move. We were thinking already of the big picture and had to move forward. I mean, this was something that Steve and I have been talking ever since the band, and we wanted to make our own thing and to move on and with the future, as we predicted.
We're only talking about that for at least a couple of years.
And I guess, we still do to this day because, of course, every single individual that was in the group at the time, and of course, Dwight here, all of us have our own issues that we gotta, take care of. Speaking for Dwight, he's got a family he needs to take care of. I got my own thing I'm working, and of course I'm helping out my folks, and I got to take care of that. Of course you're in school, and of course you're trying to do what you can for yourself, and that needs to be taken care of. But sometimes in life, we have to put what is most important to us as individuals before anything. Even though, of course, at that time, I said, okay, the group comes first, because of course that's part of that nature, and everything else last. But as I'm speaking for, I guess, all of us, and you guys can agree or disagree. But as we get older, the more older we get, the more wise we become. Of course, we have to understand what is really important to us as individuals.
The experience doesn't help.
Yeah.
The experience that will make you wise. You'll go through a situation, make the choice to do this instead of this. When in actuality, this is a better choice, and this is a choice that's going to leave you high and dry.
That is absolutely true. Also within the Wolfpack and original rings, I was happy with the people that we have brought with us, because that actually made me see as a leader, and of course you with being a Wolfpack leader, both of us got to see what our players were truly about. Were they committed to the group? Whether they can actually rise to the occasion when there's certain situation present. We got to see a lot of that, and of course, as we're getting into that subject that I want to get to is, there was just one thing that we could have made better if it wasn't for one individual. But of course, I'm going to get to that in a second. But in order for us to become legit, or at least in our minds that we could be as one, was the fact that I try to make promos on video and to at least get everybody in to say peace. But to my disappointment, it didn't work out that way, because there were people that, certain people that really never spoke out as much as I wanted to. You're one of them, even though for the important fact that, you were gone to New Mexico at the time, and of course you had to, take care of yourself, which was the most important before anything. But you're one of the individuals. Mike did spoke out a few pieces, which I am proud of the fact that he stood up and actually delivered certain messages. Tony, I really thought he had it, but at the last moment he just froze out, which he needs to focus. Try to.
My only issue is stage fright.
Stage fright? In what aspect of it?
Groups of people. I don't care if I know them or not. times. Do not talk while in front of the times.
And with Lance, I wasn't disappointed. He definitely spoke out his piece.
Lance? Shit. Lance will speak his mind through anything. He'll tell you, depending on the topic, if you ask him, and he'll tell you if it's bullshit or not. And he'll also tell you where to stick it if you don't like it.
Of course. And speaking about the promos, you know, not to brag about it, but I've been the only one that has spoke out more on videos than anyone else. You know, you guys can recollect because when I...
Can't see your idea.
Oh yeah, of course. When I introduced the idea about how to do the videos that I have envisioned for all of us to do, everybody was getting into that idea, but once it was showtime and you know the cameras were ready to roll, everybody was almost frozen solid, except for maybe Mike and Lance, which I'll get them to do. But you know, you spoke a little bit when we did that comeback tribute for you.
I tried.
Yeah, you did. And speaking about that video in which we did the return for you as our fearless leader, the one major negative was the fact that Mike's dog was there and he was more louder than the rest of us.
You mean
that little freaking
dinner?
Yeah, that little freaking chihuahua that got into the
No, it's not chihuahua.
Okay.
It's taco meat.
You can't taco meat.
That's either the next night's dinner or tonight's dinner.
But yeah, bottom line was that dog was more louder than, I mean, me and that dog. I think that dog outranked me because I was trying to speak up as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then of course Mike's mom got into the picture too. I mean, I don't got nothing against Mike's mom. I know that's just like a,
she's cool. She is.
Yeah, but unfortunately she got into the picture where it's like, see, where's Mike's mom in the video, you know? So it's like if all of that would have happened, I would have had some, you know, big piece that I could be proud of, that I would put together beautifully. But at the same time, yeah. But at the end, it's like when in the beginning of the promos that I had done, where I was stating about business and attitude and everything that the nWo was all about. It's like later on the promos that we've been doing, it's like if it's all sissified and it's all my brother's love and where the hell did the business go, you know?
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Once again, we are united. The nWo group is back one more time. In the month of December, of course, sharing is caring. And speaking of which, we want to welcome back our fearless leader. Kricket is back in the house with us. You know who's in the house. And I know our fearless leader's got something to say, man.
I have a surprise store for everybody. Very people know, and that we just don't know when.
And that's the thing with Kricket too, because you never know when the heck he's going to appear, but you know that he does it nWo style. So at this time, I definitely want to bring up the opportunity to have the group say something to Kricket, our fearless leader. On my part, man, I'm just happy that you're with us at this time because we know how times are difficult with the world corrupting. But there's one word that won't corrupt, and that's this one, the New World Order. Original cannibal pact. You know, you're the one who rules today. Keep on being sweet, and keep on ruling with us. We welcome you back, man. And we hope that it'll keep going like this by the time you come visit us each and every time. So you know how it is, man. So who else has got something to say? Oh yeah? Times like these just makes it more difficult. You hardly ever find the words. And it's the attack of the dogs right here, man. You got two musky gunning and baby. Anybody else got something to say?
I don't ever see he comes back in town and selling hand grenades and that's what he's and it'll be a good thing when he's back here for good. And I just hope that comes sooner rather than later. So good to have you back. Cricket man. Yeah. You know, I'm throwing up one for him. Mr. Bartle, you got something to say to Cricket? Hey, tell you back. Please, stop throwing those those at me. Ah, there you go. Well, all you can say is memory in the future. Well, you know, that's pretty much the deal with these groups. We rule together, whether one of us is out on the town, away from the group, you know that you can't bring us down. But I'll tell you one thing for sure. We are for life. Doesn't matter what color we bleed, as long as we're together. Guys, you know that with us and our fearless leader back together, we are just two. Hey, bring it over here.
The preceding announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
You guys have no idea the countless hours of having to put those promos together. I mean, they were very tiring. I mean, it's like, you know, I didn't want to run out of ideas.
I have an idea of it, right? Because of school. Spending a week on one video, which was what, only a minute and a half long?
Yeah, and only these were promos that were only like maybe 3 to 4 minutes, closely to it. But I mean, it was very tiring. I mean, and all it is just sticking to the original display, just like how the actual nWo groups do it. That quick cut, fast-pacing promo talk that they do. It's like I wanted to keep the same concept, because even when I put them out on the internet, I just got positive reaction about it. I mean, to my surprise, and I wanted to, you know, let you guys know too that what we have done, that literally got people saying, hey, you know, you guys kept it just like how the actual nWo guys did their videos. You know, you kept it with the same color, the same point that you're trying to make, just like they do. It's like, you know, you're imitating them, and of course you can never duplicate them. We could be close to duplicating them, because I see all these other wannabes just like us, but I think we all write them better.
That's so true, because of course, you know, in the course of this thing, you have to be a student of the game, and of course that's what we do. We study the promos and the dialogue, but as long as they do their thing, we pretty much did out, and we pretty much the whole agenda was separate.
You two were more of the wrestling fanatics than I was.
Yeah, and that was originally stated. That's why we had to give you the history of what that was all about and what they were basically, what point they were trying to make.
I'm not going to say I didn't watch wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I understood.
Yeah.
But I didn't get into the subject.
Correct. And with that said, now we jump to the main topic that I really wanted to rehash and to clear up, and of course want to get Dwight's take in this, because he was a very important piece to how everything was changing, how, in my opinion, the nWo was dying out, or we made the final exclamation point to that closing and opening a whole other chapter within our story wrinkle of this group that we have here. Besides Elmo and Lance were not here with us, which I still wish to say that they would be here.
Well, Lance would be here. Just work.
Of course. And of course, Elmo the same thing, even though he's in Indiana. The fact that me and Steve, we wanted to leave out the nWo name and everything that it represents to form our own server, to form our own group, to establish ourselves the way we want to.
That is a pain in the ass. Not to mention, you gotta come up with rules, you gotta come up with all sorts of crap so that it functions as one unit.
Exactly. But in order to have everybody on that bandwagon, we had to communicate with everybody of how we wanted to form this group. that we still have its members, and I wanted to take all of those members with us and just be on our own, just be ourselves. But unfortunately, there was one member of our nWo ranks that really didn't see the big picture with us. Due to the fact that he was afraid of change, he was afraid of taking chances, risks. He was just afraid of wanting to move on. He was afraid that we would go on a very different term, which in my view, and of course in the view that you explained to me what you would want us to do, was very different to what he assumed. So, I mean, the fact that he went against every single idea that we wanted to make changes for, it just got sense. It really did. And then, of course, he was throwing in excuses like, okay, why is Steve a member of the Wolfpack? Or actually, why was Steve the leader of the Wolfpack? There should just be one leader to the whole nWo state. There should be just one guy running the original Wolfpack.
People have been wondering what the hell's been going on with the nWo. Not a whole lot has been going on after the last 3 months. But let me catch you up to speed. Right after the last time you saw us, everything has just been going downhill in our own separate lives. Of course, as you can see, my hope is still not gone, it's still there. But of course, there are some problems within the family. Problems that we can say we can solve. But of course, it takes the bigger man to think ahead and know smart. For all I know is that this family may be down, but it's not out. And for all I know is that I'm still confident that we can get to the root of the problem and solve this. So don't be forewarned if I know already what the problem is. The question is, how am I going to solve it? Already there's rumors flying around that the leadership is already getting out of hand. That there should be just one leader running the whole nWo. For all I know is that Kricket never failed me, not even for one split second as he failed me. And I know he wouldn't do it, even if he becomes the leader. Me and Steve have always got eye to eye completely on everything. We have never bickered over power. Because I know when I chose Kricket to be a member of the Wolfpack and to be the leader of it, is that would he be the man just to run this whole crew? Would he be the man to run the whole crew and never let me down? He hasn't let me down for 1 second. And we are going to solve this mess. Because I know within the inside of the group, there's a lot of crap going on, and I'm going to solve it. And for all I know is at the end of the day, whether it's Kricket or whether it's me, it won't matter. Because this plan is going to go down to perfection. To June, to Jade, to Kricket, to Acemon, to Bardo, and yes, even Rosina. The nWo will stand tall, and it doesn't matter how, but we will go back top for life.
He got me so pissed off, and to the point where it had to come down to one last meeting. And I had to come up with a plan that I had to tell you, Jade, and you, Kricket, where we had to do this without him. We had to move, all of us had to move on without him. But of course, there were a couple of contradictions that were, of course, brought up in my mind. One was the fact that, okay, where would Tony fit in the picture? In my opinion, still to this day, I think he would be a valuable member to it. But I'm not going to put Tony in a position where and still to this day, that I feel that Mike could tell Tony, or just, just force him off the bat that he has to choose either between his brother or us. And still to this day, I would never put Tony in that position. So that's why I feel that we had to leave him out as well. Still, despite the fact that I really feel that he would be a valuable asset to us. But I don't want Tony to go through all of that. Because I really do. I don't know why, but I feel that Mike would put him in that position where he would force them to choose between us and
Pretty much for the Jews to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
as a secret enforcer coming into your guys' meeting trying to make me a leader of a group that I wasn't even informed of.
Yeah, because like
that was fun.
That was a surprise.
See, the thing
I
was,
when I took the script on him.
yeah, he thought that you were going to go to the meeting to knock me off my high horse.
And unfortunately, that didn't happen. So
because it's pretty much when we first got in there, his first attack was on me, wasn't it? And then after that, that's when I found out that your father passed away. Right. And I didn't know nothing about that, and then that's when I decided that, you know what, you need to stop with his little attack against you because you got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that Mike always leaves things out, and and because he may be. I don't want to knock off Mike totally because he has been there for us individually.
I'm not saying that he hasn't.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna not give him credit where credit is due. I'm giving him his due because Mike has been there for us individually or collectively. But the fact that he is not within the same page as us, it just got me upset because I really thought Mike, would benefit of what we're trying to do as all of us move along together.
In order for a unit to survive, or
I look at it as if we decide that everything goes and we start bringing in another member into this, and we decide to bring Mike in, I think we need to just all of us sit it down and explain to him how it's going to be, and if he doesn't like it, it's either he can stay or there's a door.
Problem is that he just started doing. It's just that he just doesn't. He's not gonna.
And that's when another thing.
Right.
We bring his brother in here too, and tell his brother, we want you in here because pretty much he understood everything, and that's when we tell Mike, dude, we're not telling you to choose, make your brother choose from us to you or anything. Like we just, what it is here is this is like a family right here, and everything else. And you were a major part of it when you started the nWo with them and everything else, but you decided to be a hard head and started fighting.
And the last thing was cause friction between them, because they're really brothers.
Yeah, because the last thing that I wanted was for actual blood to be at splits because of this thing that we have formed and that we want to take it to a whole other level.
And how is a group of friends and also brothers in one way or another supposed to work together if you have one trying to attack or point fingers at their mistakes and exploit them to like it's extremely bad.
And then, of course, his instigating, unlike the way he instigates, because that's how he wants to stir up the pot and just starts with the boil where it just goes out of our hands.
That's one thing we have to do is, like, when we talk to him, we tell him, if this instigating crap is going to stop it because, we adults now. We ain't in no high school crap and everything else. If you got a problem, you either text. You text either Steve, you text Abel, you text any of us. And that's how you communicate. You don't sit there and I'm gonna make up something and let's see what stirs up.
That is so true. I mean, we all have our baggage. The point is that whenever that people means like we have to keep our personal baggage away from the group, and that's pretty much the problem. Is that here too much baggage. He just started to unleash it right in front of us.
Yeah.
And he comes to I missed the perfect. Bull. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I wanted to point out because we all had a problem.
Right.
And it came to a point where I threw it in. It's like if you all have a problem, whatever what you got going on in your life, any personal time, just let me or Steve know, and we'll give you that time. And he blew up. Yeah, he did. He blew up out of proportion.
And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you gonna blow up at that crap? I'm like, you guys have known each other for how long? Why are you guys going to end up friendship on?
Yeah, I mean...
It got to the point where it made you bust out in tears.
I had
And I was like, that's not right, man. You guys, you cannot break up the family. You can't break it up.
Yeah, and you know what's really sad right now, speaking, is that Mike still feels that this NWO group has to die. And the last thing I want to do is, I'm being honest with you.
You think it's still going?
He's still going. Whether we don't, have this meeting anymore, whether, the last time we hung out together, he was just rambling about you, the same crap, on and on and on. But, but then he throws out
there's one thing we need to do. It's time, I'm sorry to say, but it's time to boss that photo of this.
And the last thing I want to do is tell them the truth. You know what? We all moved on without you because you just decided to be a hard-headed and don't want to see the big picture of what we're trying to do. We're trying to move on to better our lives. We're trying to move on to better our futures. But if you don't want to participate, I could respect that. But but if you're gonna act that way, then then we don't want you here, at least for this. We'll always give you the due that you've been there for us, respectively. But the fact that you don't want to participate in this big picture, that's just tremendous sad. That's the way I see it.
Whatever. How long have we been a group?
Since the longest, man. It's already past 10 years. It's been that long, and it's been a decade already that we know each other for the longest, and we made all these groups within that decade. It's like, it's unheard of.
Changes here, changes there.
But you know what
something new is born.
But you know what they say, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And, it's just the fact that, I'm surprised that, with Dwight there at the last meeting, everything just took into a different direction, a direction that I wanted. Because when I huddled up everybody there, and even though we already had a heads up, and of course with Mike telling me that Dwight was going to be there, and telling me what his plan was, I knew I had to work that to our side. We had to make it work in our side. So of course we did this behind my back, and of course we had to produce it for that night. Once that last meeting came up, we had to, make a tally vote on who was going to be voted in and voted out for leader, and what was going to be their first invite from the top.
Yeah, that's what we had.
Yeah, but we had to think about the big picture and all about the greater good of what we were trying to do for AMX, which is this group that we have here. With the fact that Lance and Elmo are not here with us right now. But it was a unanimous vote because, of course, they had to be played out that way Mike can think that, okay, it was going to be the new leader, he's now going to shake things up. So I can't wait to see what he's going to do as, for the first power. And he just couldn't believe the fact that as my official power, NWO was officially dead. And Mike didn't want to accept that.
He couldn't accept it.
Yeah, because he threw in, we formed this group from the get-go so many years, and now all of a sudden it's going to die down to that, blah, 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 blah.
Why ended, or was it? Oh, I don't remember this verse.
Yeah, and he just...
Something like, why end something that's been going so long?
Yeah. That's it. That's exactly why.
Change.
Yeah.
Very much. It's first thing I was waiting for able to say is the reason I'm amending it is because controversy. And you're the main cause of it.
And I don't remember if I did mention that, or if I didn't mention the reason why I wanted to kill it, but I wanted it done. And knowing what, and then to my surprise, I'm like, okay, Mike is going to bring in Dwight to do what? To get in Steve's face or something? And, from what I understood, Mike was like saying, okay, I want to beat Dwight in, and that way he can knock off of Steve's coach or something. I don't know, but it's like I got to rechange this whole twist. And I knew that in order to put the icing on the cake for what we want, for AMX to, you know, be born, Dwight was going to be the perfect piece of the puzzle to fit this picture. That I knew and that I understood, and yet he did as well, that Dwight was going to be the ultimate member to make the AMX 6. And boy, did it work out beautiful.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. What is it? Didn't I just go by her house one day and had a small conversation?
You told me about something that was going to happen. That was the weekend I was about to have a barbecue.
Yeah.
And then you and Nate came up to me and offered me the position, and I took it.
Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, I already had thought, even before we came up to Dwight and say, we want you to be a part of us, we want you to be a part of AMX. I knew that Dwight would bring so much to us. Just like how Mike probably would have envisioned of wanting to have Dwight in the nWo. But I would be completely stupid to leave Dwight out. We had to take him.
And anyway, nWo was already something that was marked for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And that
you can't market yourself.
The truth, it kind of feels good that we got AMX going on since the nWo is coming in.
Yeah, and that's another thing. So it's like, I mean, even if we wanted to, we could make a throwback, but once we have AMX, we might as well just, you know, make our own memories and...
Start.
Yeah, and
it's not no memory-based thing of someone else or something else someone else built.
It's our memories now.
Yeah, and one memory and time that we're living right now is the fact that I got all of us four here together, and Lance, Elmo, what's up? Wish you were with us. I still want the six of us to be together, damn it.
And for Lance, I'm pretty sure you'll say it warmed or tastes like this.
That would be no mystery, man.
That was warm.
We will have to have a weekend when we can all be here.
Just having this discussion of, you know, reliving these things from the past. It's kind of relieving. And of course, there's still some people on the net that are still wondering, okay, you know, you guys are bringing all these videos out, and of course the last video that was seen was you making a statement about what's going to happen with the nWo and how you're going to solve this mess, and, you know, who's the actual leader. So this is kind of like a catch-up, because there are some people out in the internet world that still wants to know what was happening with us through myself.
What? People like left comments?
Yeah, they did. And, well, they messaged me because, of course, I blocked out the fact that they couldn't make comments. Because there were some comments that were stupid and I had to delete them. So I blocked that out, but some left me inbox messages, you know, from the YouTube account that I have.
Yeah.
And they liked the video. They saw positive about it because they said that it stuck to the original McCoy, just like how the real guys did, field-wise and everything. And, of course, it's like if they were getting into it, like, okay, you know, what's next? You know, who ended up leader? How come we haven't heard anything for so long? So to me, that's a positive, and I want to thank those people for those comments. You know, because to me, I mean, it could feel for them like an act, but to us, it's like if we were living vicariously through this nWo name that's already established. That's how I feel it. I don't know about you guys.
You know, something that we kept using, but now we don't know. The thing that you guys kept using now, nWo is gone. Mm-hmm. All we could say is now is welcome to AMX.
Yeah.
So pretty much, nWo was like a, what's the word I'm looking for? What?
Pillow to lay on.
No, more like an already laid out path, something to follow to get ideas, something to build off of until we struck our own idea, and here we are.
In hindsight, the nWo concept really set the tone basically for what would actually become AMX, and I think looking back in retrospect, it really was we pretty much grew one seed to basically grow another one.
That's right. I definitely agree with that. So Before we close out this discussion, I just want us to go around and I want to ask each and every individual. I'm going to start off with Dwight, and I'm just going to skip on over to Steven. Of course, I'll save my chief at last. So, in your guys' vision, what is the legacy of the nWo, or at least, from one's experience, even though you were never an official member, but just from what you got to see and becoming a part of AMS, just in short recap if you can, just explain about that.
The stories I've heard from Steven and Michael, that you guys were actually like a family. Just, you guys had each other's backs and everything until it came down to the point where Mike was getting upset that nobody would answer him, nobody would talk to him. And he thought by bringing me in, I would take people down, and I guess it didn't go that way for me. So the way I look at it is, I didn't come in to take anybody down. I just came to fix something that I thought should have been.
And since it ended, and officially you became a part of something that is officially born because, you're the last person to fit that puzzle to that big picture. In your view, what do you expect for AMX's legacy to be as these years come to pass us by? What do you think would be the future for AMX?
It will be bigger and stronger than we are now. I think we'll become more than, instead of being 6, I think we'll be probably more than 20. Hopefully we get that point.
Steve, what do you think is the legacy of the nWo, just from your experience?
Well, legacy is something that's carried on, right?
Right. And of course, since we have AMX that's being passed on, what do you think is the legacy of the nWo, and of course, what are your hopes and futures for AMX?
Well, as far as legacy goes, from an nWo point of view, we drew ideas from them. We drew our foundation. We drew the things of connection, unity. As far as AMX goes, those traditions, that sort of legacy still carries on. But it's going to be ours. We're going to be original. And we are going to have something that nWo, that the old group nWo group didn't have. Our own name, our own foundation. Granted, it is built off rules from the nWo partners, but it led to something better.
Jade, your view about the legacy of the nWo, and what are your high hopes and expectations for Anarch Madness?
I have to say that it started out with an idea. From there, it just like manifested itself, and we pretty much grew into a very tight inner circle. And I think now as we look forward to AMX, I say that we pretty much started something, but I think we still have the same camaraderie. We still have the same inner circle. I think we pretty much have to cement the foundation and make sure that it is headed toward the right direction. Still have that bond just stronger than it is now.
I definitely am on you with that. My view, as far as legacy of the nWo, is tremendous times that I don't think will ever be brought again, because of course those were in, and of course we always live in the present as the years go by.
There's no choice to do that.
Right. And as far as my high hopes and expectations for AMX is that we have here 4 of the 6 originals, and I do hope that we expand. But of course, this is the real deal, the 4 out of the 6 present here. You know, we are the ones that are going to pave the way for future members to appreciate, you know, what they're getting into and how things are going to be as they become part of us. Where, you know, certain lines have to be drawn, where, you know, this is what you got to do, this is what you don't got to do. You know, just follow the simple plan of life within AMS's case. And the most important thing is that there's communication and there's the bond of brothers that we have formed out throughout the years. Because without communication and the bond of brothers, we wouldn't be here right now. And I'm proud of what we have done in nWo. I am proud of the fact that we have learned from our rise and fall within that group, clique, stable, leading to this point with AMS.
And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't I one member that Mike?
Oh, very controversial.
I mean, he's not a bad guy, don't get me wrong.
He's not a bad guy, dude. It's just
we didn't butt heads too much.
He's hard-headed. Yeah, that's what it is. He's hard-headed.
We butted heads too much.
But the thing about it is that that's one thing. You guys know Mike for so long. You guys consider him a brother.
He's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, of course.
That's another story.
That fact will never be taken away because we know how Mike is. And
like, I'm letting you guys know if we get Mike and we get Tony here, and we explain to Mike, if he wants in, this is how it's got to be. You can't sit there and have controversy. You can't be hard-headed because he knows that I can get in touch with him. So if he can't get in touch with you, he can get in touch with me. He can get in touch with Christy, he can get in touch with me. So what he needs to do is he needs to just stop his hard-headedness and bring the family back together instead of just bargaining. Yeah. He's losing. I'm sorry. Now, from seeing everything, I'm glad to call you guys my brothers. You know what? Mike is a good friend of mine. I consider him a brother. I don't want to see him walk out. I'd rather see him come in than say the words.
Yeah, because, I mean, he will always be there for us individually and if not collectively. But, you know, he's got to understand if he wants to be a part of AMX, he has to look at the big picture. And he has to realize where we're going as we're walking together towards the future. And if he can't understand that, then it's always out the door. And if he wants,
like I said, it's just like I said, Abel. It's either, you know what, he's got two choices. He comes with us, there's no.
And I just hope that it don't affect our relationships individually. But if he's going to cross that line, then on my behalf, I would hate to lose a good friend that has been with me for so long. If he wants to take that.
But from what I'm looking at it now, and everything that he's going through, I think his hard-headedness is going to end up, and he's going to sit there and realize, you know what, I'm not going to lose what I had before.
Because in my opinion, it's jealousy of the fact that Steve ended up being a member and leader of the Wolfpack, and not him. That's what I think, because he's been there from its inception, but it's what you have and what you can offer in the present. Steve has everything. He never failed me, just like how I said it in that video. He never failed me as enforcer of the new nWo or as leader of the Wolfpack. He has never disappointed. He always lived throughout those rules. He never infracted any of those rules. He lived by that nWo credo, which I still credit you to this day. Because that's the way it should be. So I guess there's really not much to throw in that comment or anything.
I said the next thing we bring them in and we have to talk to them. See what happens.
Do you agree to that?
Why not?
And
what about you, Jim?
I'd say if he's ready to come down from his car, I'd say we should give them another shot.
But of course, I want to do that with all 6 of us, because I don't want to leave Lance and Elmo out, because they are important to this piece of the puzzle.
And even if Elmo can't be here, I'm always phone and put him on speaker.
Of course, because they have to be a part of this moment where we have all of us as individuals and collectively, we have to tell them, Mike, this is the way it is. You know, we want you to be with us, but if you can't accept that, then just let us know now. That way, the 6 of us can move on.
Like, I remember one thing. In one of the meetings, I don't know if you were there, but I know you were there. You're in all.
You know, he was pretty much the one that was jotting down every single thing that happened in all of our meetings. And I credit you for that too, Jay.
As long as I've known you, we've never argued.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We've never gotten into a fight.
Never.
Throughout
the longest that we've known each other, that has never happened.
What is it? Over a decade? And we haven't gotten into a serious fight, serious argument?
Crazy to a point where it's like, it's been this long and we're still here together.
And we still haven't fought.
Yeah.
Amazing married couple.
We fight. We argue all the time.
But you know what really counts? What really counts is the fact that we're having fun.
Technically, what this is going to do, this is going to pave the way for the opening of the group. And in one way or another, I feel that it's going to, well, possibly, if not will, get responses and also give others the opportunity to present themselves to be elected.
Mm-hmm. And to be considered to be possible members of NFN.
And before this video got done, remember when we were talking about the first time? What was the vision I saw when I was in Mexico and you were here? What did I want to do? Oh! I could have done that anytime I wanted.
Let's go back to New Mexico Crew.
I will.
Yeah. In about 20 years.
Go back to it.
All kidding aside, your vision was expansion.
Expansion.
Yeah.
Unity
out of the city.
Unity of brothers.
Exactly.
To make it a shut up, you.
Actually, you know what? We're talking about expanding and everything.
Yes, I'm talking about expanding.
And our beautiful camera girl here, Oprah Winfrey.
My no problem.
I think we need to make her part of AMX.
Oh, well, there has been topics about having
females. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing against it.
Yeah.
Hey, I hate to say it, man.
Quit being sexist, damn it!
And we're not being sexist. From the camera,
From what I'm hearing, man, she's a big wrestling fan. Mm-hmm. So I think she'd be a big asset to us.
There's always.
Thank you, Dwight.
We don't discriminate. We don't discriminate.
Yeah, we
do not
discriminate. Yeah. So there's always a topic if we ever do get together, the 6 of us, to throw that into consideration. What I wanted to get that earlier is if we do bring Mike and Tony to the fold, I definitely want to get the 6 of us. And let's, of course, to, of course, let Lance and Elmo know about this deal.
Yeah.
And see what they say. If they'll agree to it, then good. But if not, then, they can always speak up their piece and we can respect the decision.
That's fine.
And we can take it up in the vote, if possible. So, any other last minute comments or anything before we close this discussion out?
Need a beer.
You need a beer?
Well, we need a taco.
Oh my God. All right, well,
Stop your face.
You know what? To tell you the truth, the beer's something I could hide before you can help me.
You know what?
How are you? Follow me.
I'm not like wrong you with the beer.
Shortcut now?
Fine.
Oh my God. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen,
Pick a squat shirt.
yeah, So with that,
I wanted to see my ass in that camera.
Oh,
you're free.
Yeah, I made you a free. Don't put stuff that high now.
I'll take number 3.
They'll pick number 3. There's only 1 or 2.
Oh my God.
You don't know how shows are being produced.
No, there's only 1 or 2.
Well, unfortunately this is
Number
number 3.
1. You either go number 1 or you go number 2.
I'll take
number 3.
I'll take number 3. Not
Number 2, not seriously came out.
Oh, Lord. All right. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching this discussion based on the nWo, and you're just making a mess all over. So I would like to thank Baby over here who's anxiously waiting to get to the door.
Not exactly. I'm actually kind of thirsty now.
What about that taco? What about that taco?
Hey, you see what happened last time? I walked down the block, came back, sat down, wasn't hungry.
Well, how much I want to bet that'll happen again. But anyway, I want to thank Dwight for agreeing to having this discussion. Proud member of AMX. Of course, Kricket here, who's still a proud member of the Wolfpack, still wearing his red and black colors. Well, not on him right now, but only when I get to see him.
I have red. It's from a cupcake though. And you shut your face!
Well, wait, man, you had to
Oh,
I want to thank Kricket also for agreeing to having this discussion with Jade, who was one of the founding members of nWo and found member of AMX. And right now, before I close this out, I want to give credit where credit is due with the projects of those videos. Earl, Amer, if you ever get to see this, you're finally credited for that video. Also, Eric.
Missing link! I live with the guy!
Also,
he broke up with her.
And of course, Eric, you remember Eric? Eric was behind the camera when we got all of us together.
That's kind of like my protege there.
Mm-hmm. And you wanted it to be.
And unfortunately, the boy's taking after my steps more than I realized.
And you're thinking of one day he could go, man.
He has his own issues right now, but yes, he can.
Okay.
He's just going through his own issues.
Alright, and Eric, if you're watching this as well, Eric Rocio, I'm crediting you for that video that you've done back a couple of years, you know, with all of us together in nWo, with Steve coming back at one time, our previous leader. And of course, last but not least, Destiny behind the camera. I thank you for agreeing to being the camera person for this discussion, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.